Burnout after retiring from sport is real, and it's not just exhaustion. In this video, I'm going to explain to you how and why athletes experience this crash after retirement, and also how to overcome this huge level of burnout that pretty much any ex-professional athlete experiences when they retire. To begin with, it's very, very normal. From trauma responses and nervous system overload to spiritual identity loss and awakening, this is the conversation every former athlete needs to hear. You're not broken, you are becoming. Let's start off by acknowledging that you spent years being the most disciplined person anyone even knew of, pushing through pain, ignoring all of the noise, and outworking your own emotions. And now you're tired, but you're not the kind of tired that a nap can fix, unfortunately. You feel exhausted, you probably feel numb, and potentially you feel like you're running on fumes, but you don't even know where you're meant to be running anyway. And here's the kicker that we all know: you're not even doing half as much as what you used to do as an athlete. So in a way, it doesn't really make sense to you. So why does it feel twice as hard, 4 times as hard, 10 times as hard to get through a day where you're not even doing half as much as you used to do? Why? This is burnout after sport, and it's nothing like they told you it would be. And yes, my face is also sunburnt, but we're not talking about that kind of sunburnt. Australian UVs, by the way, are very high at the moment, so please wear your sunscreen. Athletes are conditioned for one thing: high performance. You are trained quite literally to override pain, to detach from emotion, and to just keep going no matter what. In psychology, this is called overfunctioning. It's essentially a trauma response that looks like, from the outside, productivity. And of course, your productivity as an athlete is rewarded. So there is a payoff, a positive payoff, sort of, but now you're burnt out, so I don't know if that's necessarily a positive payout anymore. It's not serving you. It was something that was serving you as an athlete, and now it's most definitely not serving you. You probably feel like the sunburn that's on my face right now. So essentially what happens is that same drive that you had as an athlete, which was once serving you, now it turns against you. You feel guilty for resting, you feel lazy for slowing down, and unfortunately, you probably feel worthless without a target. So your mind keeps searching, ooh, what else can I achieve? What's next? What can I do to feel worthy again? But your body, in comparison to your mind, your body is screaming. And it's a scream that you finally hear. As an athlete, your body was screaming for years, but because you were wired to be in high performance mode, it's like you didn't really hear the scream. And now that you've retired, you hear the scream, you actually hear the noise. And now, especially that no one else is watching, it's as though your body says, okay, that's enough. Now let's go deeper. Firstly, understand that your nervous system has been stuck in fight or flight for years, maybe even decades. Essentially, this is the combination of cortisol, adrenaline, and significant overdrive. And your brain has also been wired for external reward, for audience applause, medals, trophies, money, status, you name it. You know what it was for you. It was probably a combination of a lot of things. And when that's gone, you don't just lose your routine, you lose your dopamine source, your rhythm per se. Dopamine is like your feel-good hormone, okay? Which is another reason why a lot of ex-professional athletes spiral into depressive symptoms or true depths of depression, but that's another topic. Essentially, you lose your sense of aliveness, and I've felt that. I felt like in Germany, I used to live in Germany for it, I felt like everything was alive in Germany, even though there's barely any sun. And then I came back to Australia, and honestly, in Australia, everything felt dead, even though environmentally, it was probably the more alive place in terms of sun exposure and plants growing. But yeah, I felt alive in Germany. And then I came to Australia and I didn't only feel dead. It was like everything actually was dead. Nothing was kinetic and nothing was alive. And that's also because I tied my sport to that country, which was Germany, if that makes sense. So that's why your body hurts in a way, because you've lost your sense of aliveness. That's why you can't focus, and also why rest, it doesn't really feel restful. Like it doesn't really feel like you're solving any of this burnout, which we will get to. So the thing to take away here is that burnout after sport isn't just laziness. It is your nervous system literally collapsing after years of suppression. And suppression is like you keep putting it down, but it's still there, okay? You're ignoring it. And so your nervous system is literally having a breakdown inside of you. And that's expected, okay? Because you've been suppressing that breakdown for years, maybe even decades, okay? I did. And now I'm still sunburnt. No, I'm kidding. Sunburn and burnout, they're very different things. Burnout isn't just physical, okay? It's mental, it's spiritual, it's in a way the burnout of your soul, the burnout of your identity, the burnout of so many things. Again, you didn't just retire from your sport was your identity. So you have the burnout of identity, like your identity's literally being burned. Kind of like my face right now. And for years, you weren't just you know, you were the athlete. Or for me, it wasn't just, oh, I'm Lily. It's like, no, I'm a ballerina. Very different concept. You were probably the strong one, okay? The goal setter in your family. The warrior, or the one who had it all together at probably a young age, because you started your athleticism at a young age and kept fulfilling that for years, maybe even decades of your life, right? For me, I actually got into, my journey started professionally at the age of 12. So for a 12-year-old to know what she wants to do for the rest of her life and go after that, you know, that's not really considered normal or ordinary. So you are viewed as the warrior, and so you believe you are the warrior. You believe you are the one that has it all together, when really your nervous system is just being suppressed. And then when you retire, for whatever reason, you have this nervous breakdown, which is, in psychological definition, burnout, okay? But it's a very different form of burnout than, you know, someone who works too much. The sad thing is, as I've mentioned before, you don't even know who you are as a person, okay? Which ties into the identity crisis. And that athlete who you probably still carry with you to a certain degree, or maybe entirely, it was tied to your performance. So there's like a part of you, or maybe you feel like all of you is missing. But here's the deeper truth. Burnout is the soul's way of saying, stop performing and start becoming. You are not broken, and I'm not just saying this to make you feel good, it's true. You are not broken. You instead are being called inwards in a psychological phenomenon called burnout. The only reason I'm able to even make this video and help people is because I went inwards, okay? Spiritually, this is like the death of the ego, right? Which I made another video on, so I don't need to get too in depth with that one. But essentially, it's that part of you who got love through achievement, that found safety in the structure that sport gave you, and that also used control to a degree for protection. Truth is, now you are being asked to soften and to listen and to actually become. And that isn't in a feminine sense. I don't mean that, because I know there's a lot of male athletes who watch my videos as well, or ex-male athletes. It's not about softening into the feminine. It's about being courageous enough to go inwards and reconnect with who you actually are. Because your sport is not who you are. And your sport never was who you were. It was just a story that you told yourself, that you accepted at some stage due to the extremities of being a professional athlete. You are essentially shifting in burnout from doing to becoming, from proving to trusting, from performance to presence, and from ego to essence. This is not weakness. This is transformation. And it takes courage to transform, okay? There's a lot of mental battles and things you have to realize and accept that are difficult to do. In no way or shape or form is this easy. So again, it's not you softening. It takes courage to do this. Because at the end of the day, burnout is the invitation to come back to oneself. The person you were before you were in the spotlight. In a way, it's the sacred pause for rebirth, quite literally, which in a way can help you really view it in a positive manner, especially when you accept every athlete, when they retire, at some point experiences this extreme level of burnout. And it's a very different type of burnout than someone who works too much, okay? Or someone who studies too much. It's a very different type of burnout, okay? I like the simple sentence that burnout is like the cocoon between identities. The identity that you had as an athlete and the identity that you've had inside you the whole time, but you never really got a chance to know, you know? And I can quite confidently say, like, I am not my medals, I am not my momentum, I am not my productivity, I am me. And that, quite frankly, is enough. And if someone views that as not enough, that's a reflection on them, okay? And if you let someone view you as you're not enough because you're not as productive and you're going through this huge stage of burnout, and you allow that, that means you've also got the story that you're telling yourself, and that's a reflection of yourself, that your worth is tied to your productivity and what you do and your achievements, okay? And again, you're worthy just the way you are. And you need to experience this burnout and go through it in order to find that true self, the true self that you never got to know because you spent so much time being an athlete and in the identity of an athlete, which really was just a mask, because there's still a you deep down inside of you. I promise you. So in burnout, this is your next chapter, okay? But understand that in this chapter, it is not about chasing something. It is about remembering who you are. Who are you? When you are not achieving, when you are not being praised, when no one's watching, who are you? And that takes a lot of courage. It has taken me so much courage to get to the position that I am in today. It was not easy. And it was really not easy to accept burnout and sit in burnout for 6 months. That was not easy. I hated the feeling, but I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to accept it. And eventually I realized that the burnout was a blessing. It was a blessing to get to know my true self, and it was something that I was really deserving of doing, and something that I had to do to heal, to then evolve and become. It really does take unlearning the hustle and relearning how to be like human, how to be oneself. And for me, it wasn't even something that I had to relearn. I didn't really feel like I had that chance as a child. So for me, it was something that I had to learn. I didn't even have like a manuscript or a way to reflect, you know. I literally had to learn for the first time in my life as a grown adult how to be myself. That's the honest truth. And you might feel like that as well, who knows? To slow down, to heal, to rest without guilt, and to live without performing. That is the real win now, okay? And even so, I used to work online as a health and fitness coach, right? And even in a lot of my content, because I was still going through my healing journey, and at times I was, you know, really burnt out as well, I was still performing in a way. Okay, I was performing to the camera. I didn't speak in my authentic tone or voice. And I can sense that upon, watching those old videos and everything like that. But you might find yourself performing still in other areas of your life, but understand the more you do that, the more you're not going to find your true self, and you're not going to truly heal. You need to learn that you don't need to perform to be accepted. You don't need to perform to be someone. And the biggest thing that you could do at this point in time, and the most courageous thing that you could do right now, is take off the mask, stop performing, and go inwards. And you are very deserving of that as well. And you need to do that. You actually need to do that in order to live a new chapter of your life authentically, that brings you joy and fulfillment, and to find your purpose, and to wake up every day and genuinely know who you are, and to really have the frame of mind that it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or what anyone else says about you, because you already know who you are anyway. So the question that I'm sure you're wondering is, how do I come back from the burnout though? How do I actually get over this massive brick wall? You might be asking yourself, how do I rebuild when I don't even know how to start, right? So let's break it down psychologically and spiritually as well. Psychologically, we are looking at two things. One is how to rebuild the nervous system, and two, how to retrain internal safety and feel like you're safe without having to do anything, and your safety isn't tied to your productivity or your performance or anything like that. Number one is nervous system regulation. And there's a lot of different things you can actually do tool-wise to regulate your nervous system. One is daily breath work. I do this primarily through meditation, where there's a daily breath work within the meditation. Two is cold exposure. I know that there's a lot of contradictory scientific analyses on, for example, ice baths. I've done them for a while, and because I'm able to do it and be in there for quite a long time, I get out and I genuinely have had moments where I'm like, oh my goodness, I no longer feel anxious. I no longer feel depressed. And it's like I'm on some high, but obviously it's a hormonal, high of probably serotonin and dopamine, but I'm not actually you get what I mean if you know what I mean. Point is, and even Wim Hof, you can have your own opinion on him, but even Wim Hof, if you don't know who he is, he's all about cold exposure and how it helped him overcome depression and anxiety. I've had moments where I'm like, my goodness, this heals everything. But the reason it really helps is because especially the longer you are exposed to it and the better you become at it, it does help regulate your nervous system, okay? And it really puts you in that, you have this moment where all you can focus on is your breath, along with how cold you feel, right? But in order to not feel the coldness, you focus on your breath and you become accustomed to it. And same with meditation. It takes time and practice, but both of those things really will help you regulate your nervous system. I have quite a few meditations as well that you're welcome to try out if they are of interest to you. On this channel, there's a meditation playlist. 3 is any sort of gentle movement, okay? Not strenuous movement, because often strenuous movement, it will bring back the athletic side of you. Not to say that you shouldn't strength train, but what I'm saying is initially it might bring back some PTSD or bad memories, or memories that are just painful for you, and you're trying to get through the burnout. So, walking, yoga, maybe some gentle swimming in the ocean, that kind of very gentle type of movement. Even me, for a very long time, there would be some days, not every day, but some days when I would train in the gym and it would just make me feel so low. It wouldn't regulate my nervous system. It would actually spike my anxiety, for example, because I was constantly reminded of the things I can't do because my foot is genuinely messed up. So gentle movement, okay? Nervous system regulation movement. Be mindful with that one. Plus, you are burnt out anyway, so it's probably not the best idea to go and run a marathon or anything like that. With that being said, you do you. This is just psychological advice. So with that being said, it's psychological advice. I would take it seriously, but at the end of the day, you can't control people, and you are going to do whatever you want to do at the end of the day. Second one is cognitive reframing. So cognitive stands for your mental cognition, how much your brain essentially works, and reframing the way your brain works, okay? Number one is to challenge the belief that you have, which is that rest equals failure, when really rest probably equals the hardest and most courageous thing that you have to do in order to heal, right? That's a perfect way you could reframe it, but reframe it in your own way. Rest equals failure. How are you going to reframe that in a way that serves you? How are you going to reframe that belief in a way that can serve you? Two is to reframe your definition of success, what success means to you now. I have a whole video about success. So if you want to check that out, go check it out. I won't get too in depth with that one. It's basically about how to redefine success, as I just said, but it's very in depth. Three is mindfulness practice. And I know the word mindfulness can kind of go over someone's head and it's like, oh my goodness, I just don't have the patience for that. But hear me out for a second. Mindfulness can be, yes, in the form of like meditation, 5 minutes a day. I will be honest with you. For a year and a half, I decided to try and meditate. And this was when I was still an athlete. To sit down and listen to my breath for 5 minutes, it was almost impossible, okay? And so I didn't really notice any benefit. But I knew the benefits of meditation because I had studied it. So I pushed through a year and a half of every morning sitting down and listening to my breath through this app called Headspace, which at the time was free. And eventually I became able to do that. And then I shrieked the benefits of deeper, longer meditations, which really improve your sense of mindfulness. But mindfulness really is being aware of your thoughts, okay? So often we're really distracted, and you will want to distract yourself because burnout can be very unpleasant and it can bring up a lot of unpleasant emotions and thoughts and beliefs as well, belief systems that you've inbuilt. But for example, you could wash the dishes without listening to a podcast, without watching TV. Maybe you just put on some meditation music and just be mindful of your thoughts, right? Or when you go on a walk, you're not listening to a podcast, you're not watching something, you're just walking. Okay, with nothing around you other than your thoughts, and you become aware of them. That's what mindfulness is, the awareness of your thoughts. For some people, journaling can be really effective in mindfulness as well, because if you just start writing whatever is going on in your head, then you become aware of what is going on in your head because you're literally writing down your own thoughts as they come to life within the very second. So that can be a very effective tool if you want to try journaling or you like journaling. Some people don't like doing it, and that's fine. Like, pick and choose what works for you. And the last one, of course, is professional support. To work with informed, like trauma-informed professionals, because losing your career is a form of trauma. It is, okay? Even if you don't like that word, even if that word triggers you, that's the truth. Especially if you got injured or it happened at the flick of a switch, you even have that side of the trauma as well, which can make it harder in comparison to people who choose to retire. Nonetheless, it is traumatic, okay, because you lose your identity, etc. Or like a somatic coach or someone, like myself, who helps ex-professional athletes overcome the identity crisis, loss of purpose, all that kind of stuff, okay? Get the professional help and don't be afraid to. And lastly is to join a community where people are going through the same thing, okay? When I lost my career, I said this in another video, no one else lost their career. No one else had 9 unsuccessful surgeries on their left foot. No one else was living in chronic pain. And when you are in a community of ex-professional athletes, you realize you're not alone, and that sense of community really backs you up. It is such a genuine support team as well, because they have a lot of the similar things that they're struggling with and that they've been through. And they might even be from the same sporting field as well. Like, so many athletes struggle with the stuff that I talk about on YouTube. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because often these things aren't talked about, and you just lose your career, and then you're just like left and you're all confused, and they really are not talked about. So anyway, before I get on a rant, let's move on. Some spiritual tools that can be very effective, okay? A lot of this is changing your perspective. The spiritual tools that I'm going to run you through, they help reconnect you with your soul and your essence, okay? The part of you that is not performance based. And the true healing, like when you start to really feel, oh, okay, I'm starting to feel better, I'm starting to feel healed, it's when you get to know the person who is inside of you. You just haven't had the chance to get to know yet, okay? Number one is to use nature as a mirror. For me, moving to the coastline, I was writing a speech last night. Anyway, I haven't posted the speech online or anything. And, I was saying my turning point for me was moving to the ocean and being beside the ocean. And that was the one thing that I missed living in Germany. It was the only thing that I actually genuinely missed, so much so that I would change my environment for that if it was the only thing that I had left that brought me joy, if I didn't have my sport. So eventually I moved to the ocean, and that's when I decided to start healing, because it actually provided me an environment where I could heal. So it's a good question to ask yourself, are you in an environment that allows you to heal? Do you have the support network? Do you have the right environment? If not, you need to change your environment so that you give yourself that chance, right? You can't be in an environment with people holding you down, pushing you down. That's never gonna help, and it's never gonna allow you to break free, okay? Nature, there's no particular form of nature. Do whatever you enjoy. The ocean, forests, parks, whatever it is for you. The outdoors, Mother Nature, okay? 2 is practice stillness. Okay, any athletes who are ex-professional athletes who are watching this, stillness is probably the hardest thing. And it's one tool that you did not learn as an athlete. I should make a whole nother video on this, because this video is becoming way too long. You don't want to just rest physically, you want to rest spiritually as well, okay? And sitting in silence is the way to do that, which comes back to psychologically the practice of mindfulness, okay? And in the stillness, it allows you to see yourself, and it allows you to see who you are beyond the noise, okay? Because you actually hear your own thoughts. Another one, which I really love, but is difficult when you're in the burnout stage, is the rituals of remembering, okay? For example, you could light a candle in the morning just for you. Or you could speak affirmations like, I am enough even when I do nothing. I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to become. Very difficult when you're in the burnout stage to do, but again, often the hardest things to do, as you would know as an athlete, the hardest things bring you something in return, okay? So often the harder practices to do during the burnout phase will actually help you the most and heal you the most and help you overcome burnout the most. And lastly is to reconnect with purpose, okay? I have a whole video on like the purpose journey, and I believe it's titled something like Feeling Lost or something like that. And it walks you through what the purpose journey is. So I don't really want to dive too deep onto that because this is a very long video anyway. To finish off here, I want to remind you that healing isn't passive, okay? It is the bravest thing you will ever do. It is the bravest thing that it will take the most courage out of anything that you will ever do. Healing for me and going through burnout was the harder in comparison to anything in my sport, okay? Like the mental battle, it's hard. And just know that even in saying so that it's hard and it takes courage, like you don't have to hustle your way through it. That's not the way to go about it, okay? So it takes courage to take your time with these stages of burnout and overcoming burnout, okay? It takes courage to be aware of your thoughts and your beliefs. And remember, you are becoming who you always were meant to be anyway, okay? There's a soul inside of you who was always meant to come out, that you were always meant to meet. And it's just because you spent years and decades of your life tied up in the athletic world that you never got to meet that soul, okay? And it's something that you're meant to do. Beyond the game, beyond the grind, beyond the goal. It is going to take you further than you could have ever imagined. And just remember, you don't need a medal to matter. You just need to show up for you consistently right now, every single day. Still choose yourself. Not the athlete, you. The you who has always been knocking at the door. And that should be your real victory, okay? Initiating this healing, going through burnout. If you like this video, drop a like so that I know. And if you haven't subscribed already, I encourage you to do so. There's so many more videos on here that will benefit you and help you through your healing journey. In addition to that, there's always new videos coming out as well. So that's it for today's video, guys. Oh, and before I forget, I have a Spotify playlist, okay? Which a lot of these videos are in the podcast format, so that if you don't have the time to sit down and watch all these videos and you'd rather listen to it in the car or whilst you're at the gym, whilst you're driving, whatever, you can do so. So it's called the Lily Kathleen Podcast. I have a link to it in my channel. But yeah, the Lily Kathleen Podcast, if you want to drop that one a follow so that at times when you can't watch, you can listen instead. That's it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.